C-Duck Again is brought to you by Hackensack Brewing Company and their Imperial Pilsner Auga, which was created in honor of the legendary DJs The Awesome Two. Thick Crates, pure hip-hop satisfaction. Check out their limited edition new releases available now on Instagram. Weaponized Records, an independent music label serving up underground hip-hop. The revolution will not be televised. It will be weaponized. Rap Central Station Mag Paper, the world's first art rap chart magazine. And the Spit Slam Record Label Group. The Spit Slam Record Label Group, a Chuck D situation. Catch us on your favorite streaming platform, on Bandcamp, or visit our official web store at spitslamrecords.com. All releases are available digitally or on CD, with select titles available on vinyl and cassette. The Spit Slam Record Label Group. Throwback to the future sound.
Strutting like a peacock, shouting from the treetop. Deep roots like bebop. Once again it's C-Dot. Chock-a-block, sonic, phonic, freedom, rock, boxing. Shock, jock, flatline, hip-hop outfoxing. Ultra mag flossing, Jetty O bossing. Channel Zero watching, awesome friends blossom. Caution to the wind as the soul buck spins. Rip the microcosm, knocking down duck pins. Props from within, and when Chuck drops in, we shine like the light, cause life is paper thin. It's Tuesday, begin to learn from your kin, bringing uncut gems. It's C-Doc again.
It's C-Doc again.
Well, it's Tuesday night, and we are back again for another episode. Welcome back to Channel Zero. I am C-Doc, and welcome to It's C-Doc again. Hope everyone is doing well out there, and we're going to have a fun show tonight. You see the book over here? Yep. We'll be talking about that. And if you don't have that book, go get it, because it is a necessity, if I do say so myself. But first up, got to introduce the crew. You know her from this show, but she was also got her start in classic rap radio at KDAY, K-Day, in Los Angeles, in the glory days of K-Day. Please welcome to the show, Jennifer Jenny.
What's happening? What's happening?
What's happening? What's happening? How are the things?
Things are thinging.
Excellent. Yep. Excellent. Also joining us tonight, he has the dopest account on Instagram. If you don't follow him, you're a sucker. Ladies and gentlemen, the Culture Clip King, Ultramax 7.
Hello, friends.
Hello, sir.
What's happening, yo?
Nothing. Phone blowing up. trying to deal with this, that, and the other thing.
Oh snap! Good or bad?
I think I must not have put it in there. Okay. It's what? It's submission week for the magazine, for the next issue of the magazine. So I'm trying to make sure everything gets to the layout people.
Got you.
Let's see. Nice hat. Is that new?
You know, I got this from my friend Elder Sensei.
Oh, you're friends now. Oh no, I'm just...
We've been friends, but you know, he came down to Philly and did the Perspective podcast, and
yes.
Good event, great event.
It looked like
great.
Great.
My man Ron Living came up from Maryland. He gave a performance, and good times.
Yeah, fantastic.
So shout out to Elder Sensei. Good looking. Hooked me up with the hat.
Yeah, dope hat.
Yes.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's bring our guest on. He's a music historian, lecturer, narrator, webmaster, record collector, and he did this incredible new book.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm trying not to get the reflection. There we go.
There you go.
Run-D.M.C. Raising Hell 40 Years. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Jayquan.
Yo, what's going on? What's
happening?
Everything. Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
Thanks for being here. And as I was saying earlier, congratulations on this. Spectacular.
Thank you.
I mean, it's done up the best way possible.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very proud of it, man. Very proud of how it came out, man. Very much so.
How long was this in the works?
Probably the better part of a year, but it could have taken a shorter time than that. But the publisher Quattro and Moto Books, they have their outline. What they do these high-end coffee table books usually around the anniversaries of albums by rock groups. They've done like The Who and different rock acts. They did one on the 40th anniversary, I believe, of Purple Rain by Prince, Pink Floyd, things like that. So this is their first venture into the waters of hip hop. So they wanted it structured a certain way, and so it took the better part of a year. But I'm a huge Run-D.M.C fan, so of course I did research and interviews with the principal players, but much of it was just my recollection of remembering where I was the first time I heard the first single, My Adidas and Peter Piper. Remember where I was when I heard Sucker MCs, just all those pivotal moments. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. How was the pitch when you pitched it to them? It being their first foray into hip hop, how was the reception to the pitch? Like, did you take some convincing or?
No, it did not. The way that it worked, I didn't pitch it to them. They actually came to me. So, to make it as short a story as possible, right around the time of the pandemic, I'd already been doing, I've been writing on the internet, for better part of, more than 20 years, ever since the internet really became popular, since the late 90s. But right before the pandemic, as I saw people doing less reading and more watching YouTube and short videos, short form videos and things like that, I started turning my written pieces into like these narrated mini documentaries. And I had done one on Run-D.M.C. I think it was called Run-D.M.C. and Crush Grooves 1 through 4. And I just talked about each Crush Groove. Like Sucker MC's, Hollis Crew, Together Forever, Daryl and Joe, all the Crush Groove songs. And I talked about some other things on there too. It was like a 45-minute piece. And someone at the publisher saw it. They had an idea for the book. Someone saw it on the YouTube page, and they actually approached me and said, "Hey, would you like to pen this book, on this 40th anniversary?" So they actually came to me, which was perfect timing because that was, as you named, lecture and all those things, I wanted to author a book. And for the longest, I had a lot of ideas. So it was perfect timing for them to actually come to me and with a idea for a book that was already in my head pretty much. So it was perfect.
That's great. Dope. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. Were you referring to your infomentaries?
Yeah, that's what I used to call them, infomentaries. Yeah, and it's funny to look back on them there because they seem so rudimentary. Because I've done, I've gotten some cameras and I've, invested some time in learning how to shoot and light and all that. But at the time, I felt like these things need to be done. So let me do it with what I have. And the reception was very, very. It was pretty incredible to those videos. Yes.
Yeah. No, when the information's good, we tend to let the quality slide,
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey,
that's correct.
I've got trapped many a night just watching those, like the ultramagnetic one, obviously, and like the one you said about the Crush Grooves. I was like, because my favorite Run-D.M.C. songs are Daryl and Joe and Together Forever. So
there you go.
I love those, brother. Love those.
Yeah, I appreciate you watching, man. Yeah, the reception was, like you said, the quality took a back seat. In fact, when I started to get a little more fancy, people in the comments would say, "Hey, this is cool, but we like the way we like the kind of rudimentary way you did it." I'm like, okay. So it's been a good reception.
Yeah, that's great. It's also great that as Chuck and I have been talking about this lately. It's like these are big anniversaries for these records, pivotal anniversaries, and
huge.
The record companies don't seem to be doing much, So so this happening, 40 years of raising hell, this year. That's at least there's this. At least there's this.
Yeah, I wish there was more as well. And Chuck makes a good point. The curation of our music and culture. It definitely could be a lot better. But I can only do my part. I've always done this.
Yeah.
It's not just something that I jumped on a bandwagon on. I've been an MC. I've considered myself an MC since some of the earliest rap records, like many outside of the boroughs. When my mother bought The Breaks for me by Curtis Blow, that yellow cover, and it said instrumental version, do it yourself. I did just that, and I laugh at some of what I was writing back then, but I go that far back with it, man. So I've always done this, and the internet and social media was just a perfect vehicle for me to do it bigger.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing it. Number one, because, like you said, there's not enough out there, and with the knowledge you have and the passion. But even listen, I get inspiration from you. Things that I do on social media, I see you as like this trailblazer. Like I watch your moves, and I'm like, okay, wow. Jayquan is doing his thing. So thank you for what you do, brother.
Oh, certainly, and I enjoy your content as well, man. I see what you're doing as well, and you kind of approach things the same way I do. Some of the clips you put up and some of the things that you choose to highlight, I'm like, okay, I like how you did that. Was slick. So yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Yeah. So as an MC, you've been doing it for a while. I mean, your first record was what, 1987?
Yeah, 87 was first record. We had a group called the Two Def Crew out of and that was inspired by, like, the Two Live Crew was big way before they were nasty, when it was just Mr. Mix and basically just Mr. Mix and the One MC before they moved to the West Coast. Before any of that, they had a record called What I Like back then, I remember.
Yeah.
And it was Mr. Mix just doing his thing as he always does. And we kind of got our inspiration for our name. It was more than two of us, so we were TOO, Two Def Crew. But it goes back that far. So 87 was the first record we made.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yes,
that's cool,
I appreciate
stuff.
it. Yes.
And so you were where did you grow up?
Virginia. Yeah, Virginia. So our group, we were probably maybe the third or fourth group in Richmond, Virginia to make a rap record. I think we were probably the third. It wasn't at that point, not a lot of labels in Virginia. A lot of classic music comes out of Virginia. Of course, the D'Angelo, rest in peace. It goes so much further than that. The group, the Hold On family, who made 7 Minutes of Funk, that became a legendary breakbeat. Those are friends of mine. I'm doing some documentary on those guys. The great Lonnie Liston Smith. Yeah. Also, somebody I consider a friend. Just honored to be in these places and be able to sit in their homes and watch them play the instrumentals and the pieces to these great pieces of music, and many more. Of course, Mad Skills, Virginia Super Friends. We all went to, Super Friends. We all went to the same high schools. Cats that I'm a little older than those guys, but I've known them since they started. So Virginia wasn't necessarily a hotbed. We definitely always had talent here. And then later the Beach with Missy and Timberland and Eclipse and that whole thing. So
right. Well, that was what I was getting at. The fact that you guys had a rap record coming out of Virginia in '87 had to be something. So it was like the third, huh?
Third, maybe fourth, but it was one of the early ones. Handful were out before us.
Wow, that's cool. And then it became the First Sons later on.
Oh wow, you done your homework. Yeah, it became the First Son. So as things progress, and more so like right around the time of 88 or so, when you start getting the consciousness coming into the music, Boogie Down Productions, Public Enemy, later the Poor Righteous Teachers. When all of that started coming into the music and it started getting a little more Afrocentric and a little stronger culturally, we we changed our name from the Two Deaf Crew to the First Sons because we thought it sounded like it had a little urgency to it, almost like the Last Poets, you know. And we were and me and my partner MC Divine, we were both like the first sons born of our mothers. So you know, we were getting to that whole thing. So yeah, that's and I changed my name from Mike Master J because it sounded a little old school by the time '88 was rolling around. So I changed my name from Mike Master J to Jayquan, and and Jayquan just stuck. Yeah,
that seems about right.
yeah. I left it at Jayquan.
Yeah.
Were you self-pressing records? You guys put out The Coming in '92.
Oh man, you really did your homework. So we did self-press after we did the Two Deaf record. Everything after that we self-pressed. We just took because I mean, we were in our early 20s, late teens. We just took, pooled our resources and just pressed our records. And, that age-old story of selling them out the trunk, like literally, and, having some connections with, local radio and be able to, walk it into the program directors and the DJs. So, yeah, we did. We self did maybe 3 or 4 releases as the First Sons.
Yeah. Up until 99-ish, I think. You guys?
Yeah, around that time, the end of the 90s, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That
yes, indeed.
What was your thoughts on the change through the 90s? From if you're putting out a 12-inch in 92, by the time you get to 99, the landscape has definitely changed a bit.
Yeah, it is, man. I think from what I can remember at the time, things were a lot more regional. So like when more regions were participating. So when we first started, it was kind of a big deal. I never really consider where I am in Virginia, the South. I call it the Mid-Atlantic, not because I want to split hairs or anything, but and I would have no problem with it being South, but we had so many influences where we were. We had the influence of Go-Go, which is 2 hours up the road from us. We definitely had the influence of all the rap records that ever came out, because contrary to popular belief, if a record came out, it was on BLS or Kiss, on a Friday night, we had it definitely by that next weekend. The misconception is that they down south, they didn't get this, they didn't hear that, so when people hear my knowledge of music, they always ask what borough I'm from, and I'm always like, I'm not from well, you from the tri-state, what? And they always wanted me to be further north. And I was like, no, I grew up in Virginia, and we had all these records, all the early ultra stuff. I mean, we got all of it. So to answer your question, sorry to be so long-winded. To finally answer your question, as we moved more towards the end part of the 90s, more people were doing what we were doing. In '87, it was a big deal to come from where we came from and have a record and be on the radio. And, even Chuck D had taken our first single up to WBAU and got it played on the radio, for Adelphi's college station. And, we had a regional hit at the time, pre-internet. But as things start going on more towards the 90s, you had the internet. We're trying more to hit college radio at the time, and like I said, you have more competition. At one point it was a big deal. I remember, in definitely elementary and middle school, I was one of the few MCs in the whole school. And by the time the 90s came, and I've graduated, of course, but like everybody raps. I remember watching something with Ice-T. He was on MTV many years ago. He's like, yeah, everybody rap now. My mailman came through the other day and he rapped and he was good. And that's really how it felt after a while. Like, wow, this isn't. At one point you had to be a nerdy kind of cat, like most MC was into poetry, or they had some kind of, proximity to using words, and, it was nerdy kind of cats in the beginning. And then before you knew it, we had gangster rap was out, and you had so many subgenres of genres. So it became challenging after a minute, just to get the bandwidth and the attention.
Yeah. Who was doing the production for your records?
I was doing a great deal of it. I was always, I've always been a DJ / MC, and because hip hop is so sample heavy, I had a great knowledge of records growing up. I was the weird kid who read like all the liner notes, and I knew who produced, who wrote. I had a lot of jazz growing up in my household. So at a very young age, I knew the Donald Byrd record had the Mizell brothers on it. Like it had a certain sound. I knew this at such a young age that I didn't share it with the rest of my friends because they would have probably thought like, "What are you talking about?" Like it would have been weird. So I had to keep it to the comic books and superhero stuff, and I was almost like an alter ego being this music nerd, like preteens. But to answer your question, our DJ and the 2 Def crew was Scratch Master D, and a lot of the ideas musically were his, but most of them were mine. And because I had so much passion for it, and everybody didn't always move at the same speed, sometimes I just said, well, I know I want to sample this, so let me learn how to sample. Let me get this Casio keyboard. Like I remember I was one of the first people to sample the Skull Snaps record. That drum beat before Steezo did it. Like I remember my neighbor gave me a stack of records, and I got the recording. It sounds crazy now, but we are looping. It's a new day, like before Steezo did it. So I was doing a lot of production between me and Scratch Master D, and then once we became the First Sons, it was basically me doing the bulk of the production.
What equipment were you using back then?
Oh man, so that equipment was always a funny thing with us. So in the beginning days, we started out on Mattel Sensonic drums, which for those of us who are our age, like Mattel was a toy company, and they made these electronic drums. And if you listen to a couple of Beastie Boys songs off their first album, at least one of them, they used Mattel Sensonics. So it was on a couple of records, but it was a toy with 4 little pads on it. We started out with that. That was like probably 83, 84. Then we graduated to the Boss Dr. Rhythm, which if you remember that, it's gray with the blue pads. Mm-hmm. This is before sampling really became a thing. This is still the drum machine era. We needed a DMX during that time because we want to sound like Larry Smith, but we got the pockets to sound like the 2 Def Crew. So, we got the Dr. Rhythm. I think it was the DR-110 or something like that. Then we had a drum machine called a sequential tom, which is a very interesting drum machine. It had little cartridges that looked like Atari cartridges, and the cartridges all had these preloaded sounds on them.
Yeah.
And then we would get these pedals, like guitar pedals. We would sample with those. They might have had like 6 seconds of sample time. We would trigger that through the sequential. When we made the 2 Def Crew record, it was a song called Jay and a song called Slow and Mellow. We actually used the sequential tom. And then we finally started, to get into many years later, the EPS Plus, in Sonic, and of course the ASR and MPCs and all that stuff. But we go all the way back to the earliest drum machines, and we use some of everything. We had a 909 at one point. We just various pieces of equipment.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah,
and you were going to locals. There was a local studios you were recording at.
Yeah, locals. Well, we used to record in my house, and we recorded at Scratch Master D's house, and that's where we would do the bulk of it. But that was like, just dubbing so many tapes that it started getting so much hissing. You know how that was back at that point. And then we started going to professional studios. We had like Alpha Audio was here, and this is before the bedroom producer really blows up.
Yeah.
And then we started going to we had a studio called Kick 'Em to the Curb a lot later, and that's where the Super Friends I recorded there, and I think Mad Skills has done some stuff there. That was much more into the 90s. But yeah, we would record in the bedroom, because at one point we were just sending our tapes to, like, there was a station here called Kiss 96, and they had a master mix contest. So we were sending our tapes to the master mix contest, and then we had a station called WKIE, which was an all rap station. And that was the Z Rock crew was the DJ crew that was on that station. So we would make stuff and we would clean it up enough to get played on the radio. So it was very much a local thing. And when we, the older we got and the more access we had to some real finances, we started going to recording studios.
Yeah, gotcha.
What year was this all rap station?
WKIE was probably from 80 into 85, and it probably went till the beginning of the 90s.
Dude, that's crazy, because we would have like the no rap work day. So when I hear like other places, like I grew up in Jersey, but like 15 minutes from Philly. So
okay.
So when thank God for Lady B, she championed a lot of the music, but being close to New York and the Mecca, And I know in Philly it was no rap work day, so I get jealous when I
Yeah.
hear like stuff like
Well,
that. K-Day.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, Katie was incredible. It's crazy because it started as it was an AM station. So, after a certain time, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, once the sun went down, you didn't have access to it. And you know what AM sounded like back then opposed to FM.
yeah.
So, the other stations we had in the city, they played rap, but the only time you hear rap during the daytime would be, you had to be like Houdini level, major label or strong independent, Run-D.M.C, you got to play those. And then you had the mix shows late at night where you're going to hear UTFO, and your mixed stuff. And but then once WKIE, the all rap station, it started as just a rap show that was a couple hours, but the ratings through the roof to the point where they extended it to an all rap station. And LL would come through whenever a tour came through, the Def Jam tour, whatever tour. LL would be at the station, Eric B. and Rakim, Public Enemy was always at the station. In fact, there are pictures out there of like Rakim, Houdini, LL, Flavor Flav, all these people are in a radio station. The pictures went viral, but that was WKIE. And to see like Rakim, like the year that he dropped, he's in a picture sitting right beside LL, and everybody's a star, but not quite what they would be yet. That was right there at WKIE. So yeah, we were we were in a good place to have that, man, especially being, like I said, in what people consider the South. They didn't know that we had something like that going on here.
Right.
Watch it now. K-Day was AM.
Oh, nothing wrong with AM. Don't get me wrong. And that was, no. I mean, I recorded a lot of stuff off the radio. The only thing was, like I said, and this is for younger people who may not even really be familiar with the radio. AM was a different frequency, and the quality of the sound was different. But we wanted rap music so much that it didn't matter. I think the only negative was that, like I said, once the sun went down, you're gonna lose that signal.
Yeah, Lady B was on WHAT. That was AM before
That's right.
Power 99. So
that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was dope. It was dope to have that, right in the city. And like I remember, getting into it with other MCs. Just like this is by the time I'm in high school, and you got a couple other established MCs, and we going back and forth, and I could just make a tape at my DJ's house. Dissing this cat and get it on the radio, and they're playing me dissing this cat on the radio, and it's I'm in like 10th, 11th grade at the time, and I got songs playing on the radio, which was incredible, and opening up for like Heavy D and Just Ice, and while in high school, it was quite a thing, man. Yeah,
That's great. That's dope. Yeah, that's so dope.
Yeah, definitely.
So you grew up in a house with a lot of records. When did you start collecting records yourself?
Wow. So I had a record collection by the time I was probably 9 or 10. And when I say a record collection, I mean like, I had some albums, I had Off the Wall. I had a bunch of the children's records that were on like, remember Power Records, like they put out the comic book, I had those, the Archies and stuff like that. But I also, again, I'm an old soul because I was, for a while, I didn't have any cousins because my mother was the only child. So my aunts were really my great aunts, right? And I didn't really get this growing up. Like, my friends like, oh wow, they're close in age to their aunts. So I tell that story to say that when I didn't know I was being a DJ at the time, but at our family cookouts and gatherings, I always wanted to play the music. I wanted to work any kind of electronic equipment. At school, I wanted to turn the film strip and play the record. So I grew up on Philly International and, all of these, and a lot of jazz, like I said, Donald Byrd. I grew up on Coke Escovedo, outside of the jazz, the Eagles, all the Gil Scott-Heron. I knew who Gil Scott-Heron was way before. I won't say way before I should have, because it was cool that I knew who he was.
Right.
Like, by the time I was 9, 10 years old, and my mother would take me to the Richmond Coliseum to see Cameo and the Barcades and Switch. And I probably had no business there because like, they lighting up weed in the Coliseum. And I'm like, I'm a kid in there watching Rick James and watching Cameo in the Barcade. So I already had a little record collection by the time that I was, it definitely has Cameo records I was in the funk really heavy, the Barcades. So by the time I was 12, I got a paper route. And that's when my record collection really expanded. We're talking 82 or so. So I'm getting like records from all over, the early West Coast stuff, Dr. Dre, way before the World Class Record Crew, when they were doing, in the World Class Record Crew, when they were doing like a version of electro stuff from New York. So by the time I was 12, I had a real record collection because all my paper route money was spent in the arcades and the record stores. I lived in those two places. So definitely by my preteens, I had a healthy record collection.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Yep. That's dope, man.
Yeah.
So you got into the internet pretty early on?
Yes, I did. As soon, remember when AOL in the AOL days of dial-up, they would put like the free disc in the newspaper or wherever they would mail you the free disc. Yeah. So I always knew the internet would be big. Nothing like what it became. But I knew it would be like, something notable. So my best friend was going to college. He was going to University of Richmond. He got accepted to their law school. And my first time really spending a lot of time on the internet was at that law school back in probably, I guess, 95 or so, 96 maybe, probably 96. And at the time, there was no Google, no YouTube, no such thing as social media. In fact, you had to search for stuff on Excite, I think it was. That's going way back. Excite as a search engine. So I remember one of the first things I searched for was hip hop and rap music. And back then, like, there's no websites. They had what you call web pages, and they were really like little, simple pages. And on the whole World Wide Web, there were 2 hip hop related websites that came up, and one focused on KRS-One, and one focused on Run-D.M.C. That was it. And it literally in that moment when my boy's about to go to law school, I'm like, I'm going to learn how to make a web page. And I said, when this thing gets big, they're going to forget everything before Run-D.M.C. Because that always happened. Run-D.M.C. was I won't say they were the first commercially successful because there were other, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Sugar Hill Gang had big records. But as far as mainstream, Run-D.M.C. was what broke the doors open. And I just knew that once this thing got big, they're going to start the history with Run-D.M.C. So I made a web page and I purposely covered everything prior to Run-D.M.C. Funky 4+1, the Fantastic Five, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, all of those groups that I knew wouldn't get coverage. And they didn't get coverage for a good while. So I had a little bit of a jump start. There wasn't many people doing hip hop at all on the internet, but definitely not classic hip hop.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. And I remember because I would see like you and like Troy L. Smith and people like, and then there's certain people that have passed now, but like a Dada Rock. He was my favorite and fantastic. But you got, I think it's Troy. There's an actual living document of him. You guys asking him questions because a lot of people haven't. So once again, thank you, brother, for that.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you say that, and it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, the curation of hip hop. That's one thing that I saw as important very early on. Before, we've had so many people pass since then. It seems like now every month, but a lot of MCs don't see the importance of telling their story before they leave. And I'm so glad that we got people like Dada Rock, because a lot of people that we interview. So Troy, you mentioned Troy Smith really briefly. Troy Smith was somebody that came to my website early, just when it was called Jayquan.com. I just named it after myself, not out of arrogance or anything. It's just I couldn't think of anything else. Then I called it the foundation after that. But you had to go to Jayquan.com to access it. And Troy Smith, he's a brother from Harlem that was a collector of the live tapes. I mean, this brother has hundreds of live tapes. He saw the website. He's like, wow, this is incredible, that somebody's doing this. I like to rock with you. And it's like, all right, well, let's do some stuff together. So because he is from Harlem and has more proximity to the groups, we were a good tandem because I had the knowledge of the records. He had the knowledge of the tapes that came before the records. So I specialized in what I specialized in, and he specialized what he specialized in. And a lot of the early contacts that I got were through people like him. He would give me Grandmaster Kaz's number. I would interview Kaz, and I say, Kaz, I really love to talk to Melly Mel, and he would give me Melly Mel's number, and it was like a snowball. And also Van Silk, who was an early concert promoter, in hip
Shout out
hop.
to Van Silk.
Van Silk. He was he was my first interview. And my first interview of an artist, he gave me the phone number. He said, "You're really good at what you do. Would you like to talk to Curtis Blow?" And I'm trying to have my poker face. Like, yeah, that'd be cool. But I'm like, hell yeah, I like to talk to Curtis Blow, So Curtis Blow was the first artist that I interviewed. And from there it was just and I think I asked him for Mel's number. And then it became this big thing. So it was a very good tandem, like I said, because Troy handled the stuff that I wouldn't have known about only through Urban Legend. But he had the tape, of it. And then I had the knowledge of the records, the break beats and the actual, we just lost JDL from the Cold Crush, recently. But we were always on the three-way with JDL. I mean, we probably interviewed JDL several dozen times. We just get on the phone with him and just record. We weren't making any money off of it. We weren't exploiting anybody. I just loved it. I would go to the record store because I lived in record stores up until probably the last 2 years. But I would be in the record store and I just call JDL and say, "Look what I just found." He's like, "How much is it?" And I'd be like, "What? Oh, buy that. It's a break on there." JDL had an encyclopedic memory of break beats. And just for a cat from Virginia to be digging, and I can just get on the phone with JDL, and JDL said, "See if they got this." Oh man, it's that means so much. It means more to me than anything else could. So rest in peace to JDL as well.
Yeah. The Hut Maker, yes,
the Hut Maker.
Yes.
The Hut Maker, certainly.
Wow. Well, okay, so that explains, because I was wondering, for was it your first solo record, Urban Legend, in 2003?
Yeah, Urban Legend was the first time I did a solo record. I always did solo recordings at the house because, like I said, my group members. You got to realize with me, once hip hop came along, I stopped playing Pee Wee football. I stopped doing everything, and I fell in love with hip hop. Yeah. Everybody else in the group, they love hip hop as well, but they still had other things that they did that they enjoyed, like playing football for the school football team, whatever. I dropped most of my hobbies, and everything became music, as it always had been, but much more so. So because they didn't always move at the speed that I did, like I have an idea for a song, and if my man MC Divine, if he wasn't available or he just wasn't writing at the same speed, I just do a solo song, and I got to get this out. So I always recorded solo music, but after we disbanded the First Sons, I did put out the Urban Legend CD, and that had Grandmaster Caz and Melly Mel as guests on a song called 5 Mics.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, man, it was a big thing at the time. Yeah. And when I think back on it, I still say, wow, man, you had Caz and Melly. It was supposed to be Grandmaster Caz, Kool Moe Dee, and Melly Mel, because those were my three. That was the holy trinity for me growing up. Yes. And Mo was going to do it, but somebody said something on the song that Mo disagreed with, and it was probably Mel. You know how Melly Mel is. He said something on the song, and Mo was like, I'm trying to do this and that. And I think he didn't want to be affiliated with it. So Mo wasn't on it. But I mean, it would have been me. And this is long before who somebody did a song with them three. Macklemore, I think.
Macklemore, yeah.
Right. Yeah. This is long before Macklemore did that song. So yeah, man. So yeah. Urban Legend was wow. Yeah, it was something else.
That's crazy.
Legends, man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you get any backlash from maybe specifically New Yorkers because you have all this information, but you're not from New York? Do you get any backlash?
Yes, not as much as I used to, but for a while, that would be the thing. If somebody wanted to come at me, like, I'm well researched. I'm very detailed, as you can see just in me answering the question. I have to make sure I ain't out talking y'all. So I'm very detailed in my research. So they can't say I don't know what I'm talking about. So the people who would have a problem with me, and it's been a while since I ran into one of these people that was vocal about it, but they would say, "Oh, you ain't even from New York," or they would say, "Well, you ain't even old enough. You couldn't have been at the jams." And my thing is, like, I've definitely never claimed to be a New Yorker. The thing is, if I was a New Yorker, I wouldn't be able to do things the way that I do them, because this is what you got to realize. And as a person who is outside of New York, I can see it. The same way that people from England will have, they have much more reverence for R&B music and American things because of the distance.
Yes.
Right? Mainly because of the distance. For me, I never been to a park jam, like, not a classic one, Katrona Park where we reenact them, but like, I wouldn't have been old enough, and I'm not from New York. But the interest I have in it, other New Yorkers, when I bring up certain things, they'd be like, oh, that's just whoever. Because people who are close to you, they don't always see your greatness. So if I'm talking so great about the Fearless Four and how great DLB is, a cat from Harlem might be like, oh yeah, man, I went to school with DLB, because he knows that he's Daryl Barksdale. I don't know him as Daryl Barksdale. When I grew up, I used to listen to DLB and I'd be like, man, this guy's incredible. Listen to his metaphors. Listen to this simile he just dropped. So I have a great love for the culture, because growing up, the only thing you could see about rap music, and the American media was very late, would have been like Right On Magazine might have done a special on rap music. So I devour every little bit of information that I could get. So to finally get to the heart of your question, what somebody would come and critique something and say, well, you got this wrong. So for instance, like Spoonie G told me that he got his name from eating his food with a spoon when he was younger. So that's what he told me directly. So I have to take him at that. When somebody from Harlem was like, oh, that's wrong. And I'm like, well, I got this from Spoonie. This is what he told me. You got to take it over him. The one I thought was really funny, many years ago, I did a piece on Kumo D. And this brother came on and said I was wrong about something. And I was like, well, everything I said on here is something that Kumo D told me directly, outside of me talking about his discography and the stuff that I know because I lived it. Right. And one of the things he had an issue with, I was like, well, Kumo D told me this. And he put in the comments, this is why we shouldn't listen to people who are not young, not old enough to know the history and not from New York. So I had sent the piece to Kumo D, right? So I called Kumo D a few, days later, and Kumo D, he's super cool over the phone. He almost intimidating. He's so cool. So I called Kumo D. He's like, he answered the phone. He's a God. Like, that's how Kumo D answered the phone. And it's kind of off-putting because, nobody else answered it. So he throws you off, and I'm like, hey, Mo. He's like, God. And I'm like, oh, what's up, Mo? He's like, what's up, Jayquan? I was like, hey, man, I did a piece on you. Just wondered if you seen it. He said, man, I watched that shit 3 times. And so I'm more than honored because I'm the biggest Treacherous 3 fan in the world, Right. And he says, man, how you get some of them records? I didn't think some of them records was released. So the more things like that happen, the more I was never bothered by people saying that I wasn't from New York, but the more that my work was respected by the people who actually did it. I'm like, if Mo D approves the piece that I did for him, why should I worry about a cat on the internet saying I'm wrong? So that has happened. I remember a young lady said, I grew up across the street from Kool Herc, and you're an outsider. And I don't let that bother me because, man, I've given my life to hip hop. There's no way I'm an outsider. So it's I don't get that anymore. Not too much.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I used to want to be Kumo D.
Oh man.
When I started rhyming, that's how I was able to kind of like pitch my voice and try to sound like Mo.
Man. So when new rap language came out, we all wanted to be Kumo D.
Yeah, bro.
Man, incredible. The Treacherous 3 is all, even Special K, just for what he did, on the writing he did on Is Yours, and just their whole discography. Like I was a kid listening to them, and probably like 5th grade, man, and sitting, tell my age, I'm sitting by the component set and listening to At the Party and the Body Rock, and like you said, a new rap language, and I'm just blown away. That made me want to become a better. I guess I was an MC at the time, but my little baby rhymes, it made me want to be better. It would literally make me want to rip my little rhymes up because the stuff they were saying was just so incredible early.
I was watching an interview with you today, and something you said that I always say to people, and because we were there, but it's like you said 79 to 82 are like worlds apart, and people don't get how much innovation happened in those times. Like C-Doc was saying earlier, going through the 90s, just in like from 79 to like 82 was like a whole different world, like with just hip hop, So
yeah, it really is, and that's something that I stress because like the way my mind operates is very chronological. I'm very attached to the year that something happened, almost to the point of people thinking I'm obsessive with it. But like the year is important. So like I've been on the lecture circuit with cats, and what I realize is most artists, and I've interviewed like Steve Arrington from Slave, I've interviewed the guys from Cameo, because like I said, my thing goes way before I knew what hip hop was. But I'll be talking to them, and I realize that they don't know what year their albums came out. They don't even really know the sequence, and why would they? I mean, this is something that happened in their life that they did, and unless your mind is really like kind of like mine, where like I know this happened in '82. Like I know a world event happened in '82 because I'll know what song was out, and I kind of could connect it like that. So I'll be on the lecture circuit with MCs, and they'll be like, "Yeah, our first record came out in '82," and like I know that first record came out in '79, and you don't want to correct your elders or the people that you look up to. But I can't let you say that in front of an audience because 79 and 82, like they're like Sucker MCs is about to come out in 83. Right. And Sucker MCs takes everything before it on record, and that's what made it so great. It flips it on his head. So like, yeah, the years are very important for me.
Yep. 86 to 88.
Oh man.
World War. What were you saying?
Since we got Jayquan here, I just want to say this. This is the interesting thing because we all know Sucker MCs with the hard drums and all that. But one thing I think people forget is like Malcolm McLaren. Like if you hear the drums on that, like Trevor Horn, with like Art of Noise, like producing the drums on that hard. Like
they are hard.
Yeah,
they are hard. And the thing about and that might have been a year before. Buffalo Guys might have been 82 and World's Famous and all those songs, right? So yeah, I'm glad you said Trevor Horn because he doesn't really get his credit. He did big things. And what was the group that did Owner of a Lonely Heart? Was that Foreigner? Or what was that?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So like
no,
of course,
it wasn't Foreigner. It was Yes.
It was Yes. Okay, Yes. Okay, that's funny. That's like who's on third? Yeah, yes.
Right.
So like if you listen to Foreigner, that like there's like the funk ink break is in there like really fast and taps. Yep. Like that's a big deal in so many ways, right? Because of the way he had to do it and all of that. But then, like you said, like if you listen to World's Famous and some of those songs on those albums, it's the drums from Rocket in the Pocket. So he didn't even loop them. He chops them, he truncates them and plays them back, which is something that Marley Marl would do. Like and Howie T did a lot of that too. Yeah. So yeah, those records were incredible, and the drums were hard because they was off hard records, And then Larry Smith does Sucker MCs with the drum machine, and of course that's incredible. But yeah, man, great point, and thanks for saying Trevor Horn because Trevor Horn is incredible.
Bro, early on when there wasn't, there's not many hip hop albums. To me, like when I got the first Art of Noise album, like with beatbox, that was hip hop to us. Like that was. And if we were slow dancing with girls, we was playing, Moments in Love. So
Moments in Love. It's the long version. The long version.
The long version. With the red lights.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, that's a great point because, again, we had so much hip hop here. We was, especially because of those movies that were coming out, B Street and, Wild Style, B Street, Breaking and all of that. By 82, 83, everybody's got their linoleum and, I attempted to do all the disciplines of hip hop. I don't have great penmanship, so graffiti wasn't going to work for me, but I tried. I only wanted to do the windmill. I could never do it, so I didn't try to dance too. But I remember us breaking off of Beatbox by Art of Noise. That one and Din Dada and all of those songs, that were kind of had that kind of beat.
Tour de France.
Or Tour de France, of course, off breaking, yeah. So yeah, man. You're right. Art of Noise was doing something incredible. Even if you go back and listen to Close to the Edit, like in retrospect, it's like, wow, look what he was doing back then. As much as I was into samples and pieces of records, I didn't understand at the time just how intricate, what they were doing was. So yeah, great point. Great point.
Hell yeah. Okay, so I wanted to get back to the book.
Certainly.
Since we're kind of circling back to that.
Yes.
What was some of the stuff that surprised you the most? I mean, you've learned about all these things. Was there any information that you found in your research for the book that you were like, oh snap, I didn't know that?
Here's a couple things. So So I'd already done, like I said, this book was already in my head. I interviewed, DMC a couple times previous. I interviewed Run, not necessarily for the purpose of this book, but I was so Davey DMX is working on the documentary, and I was consultant on his documentary. So I had the incredible opportunity to interview Run. And I was asking Run, Daryl and Joe is one of my favorite songs. One of the surprising things was, he almost cut me off, to let me know how they hate Daryl and Joe. So, when I asked him, I said, I want to talk to you about Daryl and Joe. And he just kind of sucked his teeth. He was, not disrespectfully, but I guess he gets asked about it a lot. He sucked his teeth. He was like, y'all love that record. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, I don't get it. We never liked it. And I'm like, that's one of is one they at least talked about, except for people like us who right. But I mean,
my favorite Run-D.M.C song.
It's one of my favorite. I mean, the production was crazy. I thought the rhymes was crazy. To me, it's my favorite song off the King of Rock album, hands down. So I was very surprised to know that they didn't like Daryl and Joe. And as far as DMC, I had heard that he wasn't supposed to be in the group, because I always wondered as a kid, like Sucker MCs just totally blew my mind, right? And when I heard it, I was like, why does the first guy have like 3 or 4 verses and the last guy has one verse that's super short? Yeah. And he told me, he said, Jay, I wasn't supposed to be on the record, even though I was Run's partner. Russell didn't want me to be on that, or it's like that. I had to, Run had to beg him, and that's why I had such a short verse. And he said, yeah, because Run used to call himself Run-D.M.C. And, when he started getting into that story, and also Corey Robbins, who's the co-founder of Profile Records, told me the same thing. He said, yeah, when Russell came through my, my office with the tape, it said Run-D.M.C on it. So Run was going to be a solo cat called Run-D.M.C. Luckily, DMC sounds like DMC, and they just were able to do it that way. So that was pretty mind-blowing for me. And then Corey told me, he said, I still had the tape. And then one day he actually sent me a picture. Either he sent me a picture of the tape, or he had the tape on a documentary. Whatever it was, he sent me a still shot of the actual demo that they had, and it said Run-D.M.C on it. And I'm like, that's crazy. So those two things were pretty mind-blowing for me.
Yeah. Wow. That's
yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah. And I like to say this too, man. And they've said it on their documentary in different places, but the first time I heard Sucker MCs, and I'm pretty sure I talk about it in the book. I do. I was walking down the street with a friend of mine, and we both, had our portable, boom boxes on us. We ran into another friend who was on his bicycle. We had never heard the Run-D.M.C. And he's playing Sucker MCs. And Sucker MCs is so sonically different. You got to remember, we're at, the birthday party by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. The song used to have kazoos and trumpets. Full bands were playing these songs. Right. And I respect those bands. I love those, the bands that play for Enjoy and, Pumpkin and all those guys and the guys for Sugar Hill. But it was a full band. It had the same instruments that our parents' music had, the flutes and all of that, full productions. And I'm hearing this song, and it's just the drums, and the cadence is different. And I was like, what is that? And he was like, it's Sucker MCs by Run-D.M.C. Now, as Run-D.M.C always says, today you've heard that name a million times, so it sounds regular. But Run-D.M.C, everybody was the Treacherous 3, the Furious 5, the Fearless 4, Dynamic Break, Dynamic 3. I mean, whatever, you had the number of your name, basically. And I kept saying, what are you saying? He's like, Run-D.M.C. And finally he said, one guy's Run and one guy's DMC. I thought that was, that was crazy. But that record and then he rewound it and he played us like that. That record so affected me that I demanded a copy right there on the spot. So I put my box in front of his, and y'all know how it is. That was the worst recording in the world, because you had dogs barking in the background and, somebody's mother calling them, because there's no double cassette decks that are affordable. So we don't have double cassettes. So I sit my box in front of his, and I listened to that for the rest of the day until I could go to the record store the next day. And again, it's my paper route money, and get, it's like that in Sucker MCs. And I just studied that record, and I just wore that record out. And I knew that the kind of rap that had been out previous, I knew it would never come back. And that's with all respect to all of those, the Funky Four and all of those people who made records. But I was like, they'll never make another record like that. This is a paradigm shift, and I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds a little bit like the first time I heard Public Enemy.
Right.
Yep. Yep. It's very much like
I
definitely.
knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah. All those are monumental moments. Like when people say they know where they were when, Kennedy got shot and King got, like, I know where I was when I heard Suck MCs. I know where I was the first time I heard a Public Enemy song. Like the Beastie Boys was dancing off of it on the award show. Time Bomb. They had the instrumental of Time Bomb and they were doing the WAP to it. And I'm like, what's that? And it was, yeah, man, crazy.
I used to hate Public Enemy.
Hey, I don't know how much time we got, but expound on that briefly if you can, because there's a reason for me wanting to know.
Oh, no. So, okay. When we were kids, everybody had their favorite type of group with, like, my friends that listen to hip hop. So my one cousin, he liked EPMD. I hated EPMD because it was so slow. It was too slow for me. I wanted to dance and all that. My other cousin, he liked BDP, loved BDP. I was always into Ultramagnetic, hence Ultramax, X7.
For sure.
My other cousin loved PE. The noise, I didn't understand the noise.
There you go.
I didn't understand the noise until I heard Rebel Without a Pause.
Mm.
And then when I heard that, because it was the song of the summer. And then once I got that, then I went back and listened to the first album. I'm like, okay, man, I've been sleeping. Like, okay, like I get it now. And then that was good.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. And the reason I asked you because I did a piece and I was saying that Run-D.M.C took a while to catch on in the States. And, people in comments, I think somebody might have said, oh, you must not be a New Yorker. They were huge. And I'm like, they were huge. But if you remember, like, Mr. Magic, when he dissed them on air, like, a lot of people didn't get it. They didn't get the S1Ws. They definitely didn't get the noise. And it's so perfect that you said Rebel Without a Pause was the record that made you go back to Yo Bum Rush the show and appreciate it more. And Chuck actually says it. Chuck always says that our first hit record was Rebel Without a Pause. Yeah. And I know what he meant by that, So yeah, everybody didn't love. I think the UK got it before we did.
Yes. Listen.
Yeah.
We've had, when Chuck comes on here, I tell him, yeah, I didn't like y'all back. I tell him to his face, I didn't like y'all.
A lot of people didn't. Yeah.
I knew exactly what was happening. And I can tell you, I was in the car with Orange Juice Jones going to a restaurant, and he popped a tape in, and it was the demo of Yo Bum Rush. They weren't even out yet. And said, what did you think of that? And the first thing I heard, I was like, what in the hell is happening? Because it was a lot of noise. There was a lot going on. And I remember very distinctly saying, those are some really angry young black men, and I'm not quite sure why. But you're giving me that tape. And he wouldn't do it. But I went back to the radio station and told everybody who would listen, you're not going to believe or understand what's about to happen.
Yeah.
I knew when I heard it. This is changing. All bets are off. This is changing everything.
You called it. Like, a lot of people didn't get it. Like, even, I put the piece up recently, when they were on Soul Train, and Don Cornelius was like, they did Rebel Without a Pause. And at the end, Don Cornelius said that was frightening. And like, that was, that was a lot of America. It was frightening to them.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot. There was a lot of imagery. There was a lot of noise, and the noise was not anything melodic.
No,
it was just noise. Here we go. Welcome to the three-ring circus that is Public Enemy. This is about to be a shit show of noise. But if you had any kind of an ear, you knew it when you heard it, and you went, "Oh shit, this is about to be something completely different."
Yeah, it was huge.
Amazing stuff.
Very much so.
Yeah. Yep. So, Jay, what else you got going on that you wanna talk about as we wind down here this evening?
Well, like I was saying earlier, I am getting into documentary filmmaking. It's something that is very very intrigued by. Because people don't read as much as they used to, and everything now is visual. I hopefully we'll get back to reading the way that we used to. I love what you guys are doing with the rap paper, because we need to get back, to that.
Shameless plug, yes. There we go.
Yes, for sure. Yes, for sure. But I am interested in documentary filmmaking. So I've been working for a couple of years on a documentary on Pumpkin, who is like one of the first super producers. He was the house band. That wasn't a mistake. He was the house band for Enjoy Records, basically. Most of those records that said Pumpkin and Friends, it was mainly Pumpkin. He's a multi-instrumentalist drummer. Love Rap was one of the first, became a breakbeat. If you listen to any Cold Crush tapes, any tapes from the early 80s, it had Pumpkin. And then when the drum machines came around, he was very prolific on the drum machine as well. So doing a doc on Pumpkin, been working on a doc on the song "The Message" by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. That's like my life's work. Like that's one of my favorite groups. And that song, it changed hip hop. And that's the name of the documentary is "The Message," the song that changed hip hop. So fortunately, I was able to catch, Duke Booty, who's the main writer on the song, Ed Fletcher, rest in peace, before he passed away. Spent a lot of time with him and got that story. I'm cool with all the guys in the Furious Five. So some very interesting stories about The Message, and it pretty much was the song that split the group up. But I talked to all the band members about how it was made and the drum machines, and it's very interesting. So those are the two things that are on my plate. And like I said, I do have the documentary on the whole darn family from right here in Richmond, Virginia, and that's called A 7 Minutes of Funk: The Story of the Whole Darn Family. So I'm busy with documentary stuff, and hopefully another book soon. I'll be able to talk. I'm in talks for that, and I'll be able to talk about that soon. But that's the direction that I'm going in.
Excellent.
Certainly.
Before we let him go, I just want to ask him, because I know you work with the National Hip Hop Museum.
Yes.
And it's weird because I see people all the time. They're like, we need a hip hop museum in this, and I'm like, number one, we already got one, and then on top of that, there's one coming, in the Bronx. But just how did you get down with that? How did that come about?
Okay, so again, YouTube. Most things that have come my way in the last probably 10 years have been just my presence on YouTube. So when Jeremy Beaver, who's the founder of the National Hip Hop Museum, which is based in DC, he wanted to start a museum, and it's a pop-up museum he wanted to start. And he heard, I think he liked my narration and whatever he liked about my videos, and he invited me to come up and take a look at his collection. And he wanted to know if I wanted to be the official historian for the museum, and I said, sure. So we started out right before COVID, and our first induction, we inducted Trouble Funk, because we're in the nation's capital. You gotta have Trouble Funk there. We had the Sugar Hill Gang. We had Grandmaster Melly Mel, Grandmaster Kaz, and since then we've inducted over 100 artists. KRS-One, Large Professor, we're about to do Brand Nubian in another month. I mean, Big Daddy Kane, Scarface, the B-Boys, Curtis Blow, Roxanne Shante, a who's who. So, and then but before that, right before that, I was working with, and I'm a consultant for the Hip Hop Museum in the Bronx. And of course, that Pete Nice of Third Base and Paradise of X-Clan, they're the curators there. But I've worked with them off and on since the idea. So I've worked with both hip hop museums. I'm the official historian for the DC Museum, and it's easier for me to access the DC Museum because it's 2 hours up, the street, as opposed to 6 hours to New York, by anything but plane. But I think the reason some people might say, a lot of people don't know that we have one coming and one already here. And because the DC Museum still operates primarily as a pop-up, because we haven't found a home yet, there's not a place where they could say, okay, like at one point we had a really big installation right across from Howard University. But a lot of people just didn't know. So, I give them a little grace on, but you are right. People are quick to say we need this and it'll be something that they didn't know. We already got one.
Right.
But I was actually in New York about 3 weeks ago, and Rocky gave me a tour of the actual site of the Bronx Museum. It's going to be something special. Both museums are going to be great. And it's funny because people will talk about, some people will say we don't have one. Then people will say, well, why we got two? And my thing is like, so I'm in Virginia. This is the capital of the Confederacy, right? So the Civil War is a big deal here. We probably got five Civil War museums. They don't go back and forth and say, one might have a musket here that they don't have at this one. One has a Confederate flag that they don't have at this one. So, it's like they all can exist, so it'll be nice if every major city had one, So, yeah, definitely.
All I got to say is I saw you, it's not too long ago, you inducted my baby. Just keep your hands off Sweet Tea. I'm going to have to come and hurt you if you keep your hands off Sweet Tea.
Hey, man. I always love Sweet Tea. I thought she had one of the best MC voices outside of Shy Rock, because it's just that kind of the softness of the voice and just everything. And of course, she's still beautiful, So man, it was an honor to stand next to. That's what we did. We did a whole induction of most of the idol makers, which is Herbie Lovebug's management. Yeah. And we had everybody there except with the exception of Salt and Pepper, but Kwame was there, and Antoinette was there, and Play from Kid and Play, and Dana Dane. It was nice, and Herbie himself, which is very rare for him to make an appearance. Wow. Was honored to get Herbie out there, and even sat for the podcast and everything. So great stuff.
I love that stuff, man. Thank you for all that stuff. Man. Thank you.
That's great.
And much appreciated, man. Much appreciated.
Man, Herbie is one of those underrated. Just one of the most underrated producers, and oh man, he just doesn't get his props enough.
He doesn't.
He made some incredible records.
He really did, and I had a chance to ask him when I interviewed him for Rock the Bells a couple of years ago, and he hadn't done an interview in years. I was just so honored. He took like 2 hours to talk to me, and one of the questions I asked him, I was like, "Do you have any regrets?" I was like, you were Puffy long before Puffy. As far as being a semi-artist, being he was on Soul Train with Dana Dane dancing or whatever, but producing, being a hands-on button pushing producer. I say, any regrets that you didn't, take more strides to become that? He's like, not really. He said, I wish I had. He didn't say taking it more seriously, but none of us knew what this would become as we were doing it.
Right.
So he had that. He's like, I wish I had taking it a little more serious, but outside of that, he didn't have any regrets. But he is definitely one of the. There's so many beats that you wouldn't like. I used to always love the way that he chopped up. I Got an Attitude by Antoinette, and I got a chance to ask him about the process because, contrary to popular belief, he was chopping those records up. He wasn't hiring somebody to do it. He had his squad of producers, Ron Lawrence and guys like that. But he was in there pushing buttons, man. Underrated producer, like you said.
Yeah, most definitely. I see your extensive record collection. Is it any particular records you have that are extra special, like holy grails of yours that you've been able to find over the years?
Yeah, there are some holy grail, a lot of jazz stuff. Like it's like homage. A lot of it is like, okay, this is what Pete Rock sampled for this by Nas, and it's a hard record to find. So it's that kind of stuff. I spent a lot of money. On records over the years. Like this is just, I got a couple of storage units full of records, and but as far as grails at this point, it's mostly jazz stuff, like pristine jazz stuff that I have. Because like I said, I'm a jazz head. I'm and not just looking for samples, jazz head.
Yeah.
I was a jazz head, predating that. But sometimes it's just like, oh, this is a promo copy of it. This is an alternate copy of it. So nothing I could pick out like oh, they only made 3 or 4 copies of this type thing. But I definitely got some. I got some, and I held on to my records, which I'm glad about, because the way that the market has gone and vinyl is so popular now, that, you know, I used to go to the dollar bin back in the 90s before the internet and just kill it.
Yep.
And now when I look at the records, like my daughter's into Sade, and I was looking for Sade's first album for her birthday because I only had one copy and I couldn't give her mine. And a used copy of Sade's first album was like $35, and that used to be a $3 record all day long. So I'm so glad that I held on to my stuff because this demand for vinyl has driven the price astronomical.
Crazy,
astronomical.
Man.
Yeah.
I remember going into Camelot Music and I got a Schoolie D's Saturday Night the album for $0.25.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, score of the day. You know, I was like, I'll take that any day.
No, we won't see those days again, man. Once the internet came and like Discogs and all of that, you know, you would see the buyers in the record stores and they're buying used records. When somebody came in with a crate or whatever, the first thing they do is go on Discogs and eBay to see what the going price is so they could price accordingly. There's a time when the record buyers, they didn't know what they were getting. So they just would buy stuff and just, we don't know who this is. Put it in the dollar bin. And man, so I used to come up in the dollar bins, man. So yeah.
Dollar bins were great. Bins were great. CDs too. That's where I got Yag Fu Front, Jennifer. That's where I got Action Packed Adventure out the dollar bin.
Not a lot of people talk about Yag Fu Front. That's Yag Fu Front. Wow. I remember they had a song called Busted Loop, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Busted Loop, Slappin' Sucker Silly, you name it.
Yeah.
And now, when they reprinted, what did they sold out, by the way, in under an hour. And those things were going for $75 a piece.
Yep.
That is ridiculous.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah, it really is. It really is.
But part of that is because that Yag Fu album is difficult to find.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
on wax, yeah, definitely.
If somebody has it, they're not giving it up.
Yep.
Right. And luckily for myself, you know, I used to buy rap records. Like, as I was in the record store, you know, every week. So, like, you know, like I was looking the other day, I saw a used copy of 3 Feet High and Rise, and I forgot how much it was. It was ridiculous. And I still got my original that I paid like $7.99 for, you know, at Peaches Records. You know, like the rap stuff. I'm so glad that I kept all my rap records. So, like, you know, I got doubles and triples of certain things. So that was a good time to be digging.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, here. Yeah, yes.
There we go. Yag Fu Front.
Also, I was gonna say. Oh yeah. Here. What's the craziest crate digging story you have?
Wow, the craziest crate digging story.
Yes, or a crazy crate digging story.
No. That's actually a good question. I think the craziest crate digging story I had, I was early 90s. I remember I was doing like computer work. I used to ride around the city and fix computers. So, and there was no GPS. So much of my day, you know, I did my work, but my lunch break and everything else was spent just going around the various stores in the city. And I was, I never forget, I just gotten paid. I cashed my paycheck. I was super young. And I'm driving down Broad Street, which is a main, you know, street downtown in Richmond. And there's this guy out there in front of like a CVS drugstore. And he just got records just lined up against the side of the curb. Now, that wouldn't be a big deal in New York or any big city. And not that I live in Mayberry, but, you know, we're not a big city, right? So you don't see that here. You know, you might see it more today, maybe, but this was probably 91, 92. And so I bust a U-turn, like, you know, why is this guy out here with all these records? I know he's selling them, but like, you just don't see that here. So I make a U-turn, and this guy it was mostly jazz, but it was a surreal experience because like I'd never seen anything like that. So I make the U-turn, and he's got like Lonnie Liston Smith, Astral Traveling. I had never seen that album as much as I'm, you know, digging for jazz. Never saw that album. I think everything I bought from him was some jazz thing that I had never seen before, and his prices were affordable. And like I said, I literally just cashed my check, and I know I was young because I spent way too much money out there with him to just have all that money in my pocket. And it don't sound like a weird story compared to other digging stories, but that was almost like something from a dream to be riding down the street and just see this. And just the kind of guy he was. He just was knowledgeable about music, and it was a weird situation. Like, damn, it's almost like dreamlike. But like some of the stuff I came up on, and then to put the cherry on top of the astral traveling, I actually when I went to Lonnie Liston Smith house for the first time, I took it over there and he signed it for me, and I actually got it in a frame right now. So that's like. Yeah, stuff like that, man, is just like I said, is nothing better, man. Nothing better.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
yes,
amazing.
indeed. Yeah.
All right. And
Sure.
Ultramag, any other questions?
Hey, we can end it on Lonnie Liston Smith right there. This
Okay. That works for me. Jayquan, again, congrats on the book. The book is out now.
Yes,
Run-D.M.C, 40 Years of Raising Hell.
Yep. And they could get that at Amazon, Books A Million, anywhere where books are sold. Anywhere where books are sold, Barnes and Noble.
Yep. Yeah. You guys definitely, if you're a Run-D.M.C fan, this is a must-have. It's amazing.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And it's
Thank you so much.
So well done. Tell everybody where they can follow you.
You can follow me on social media at Jayquan, Jayquan. IG is Jayquan Hip Hop Historian, but everywhere else is Jayquan, Jayquan.
There you go. And thank you for joining us tonight. And
thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime, man. Anytime you want to come back. And also, just real quick, another tie-in shout out. There'll be a nice article in the next issue of Rap Central Station.
By T Love, right?
Yeah.
I read that. I read T Love's talking about that. That's good.
Yeah. T Love is dope. T Love is dope. I'm looking forward to her getting more of her story out there for sure.
Yes, most definitely. So, all right, thanks, bro. Appreciate you coming through, man.
Peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I managed to hit the applause button at the appropriate time this time.
Is Nack still here?
I don't know. It might be.
Of course.
Nack, are you here? Look, Nack, he was talking about Power Records. Nack, if you want this, I will sell this to you. It's available. This is, if you don't have it already, hit me up if you want this. You talked about Power Records. Mr. Len Beats over Star Trek. Power Records.
Yeah.
I even got the test press. He said I might have it. All right. If you have it, you have it. But if you need it, I got copies for sale. Anybody that needs it, I got copies for sale.
You get the you get the De La. You say you got the Urban Outfitters thing. Is that the repress? Their repress, or is it still the Tommy Boy with all the samples and stuff in it? That's why I was curious. Because they had to take out some of them samples.
See, and that's why you have OG copies, because things like that. Yeah,
that's right.
Dude, like what was it? I remember when they took off I Need a Haircut off the shelves.
Yeah.
So for years you couldn't find it. I had the cassette. People like, where'd you at? I said, man, I got this before they took it off the shelves.
I managed to find a copy of the CD at the record spot that I go to on the regular. They had the CD. It was still sitting on the shelf, and nobody knew what that was. And I was like, oh shit, Yep. And speaking of that album, Mocha and Dave just did it recently.
That's what made me think of it. Yeah.
Body Out Weekly.
Last week.
Yep. Yeah. You know what else? They took a sample off of the represses of Death Certificate too. At the beginning of I Want to Kill Sam, there was I think there was a Creedence sample, and it's not on the new versions, man.
You should bring Jayquan back up. He's still sitting in the background.
He's like, yes, I know.
Joining in the conversation.
Yeah. He's like, yes, that's true. Yes.
From backstage.
Yeah, from backstage. He's like, yes, I know what you're talking about.
All right, y'all. I definitely appreciate it. Much appreciated.
Yeah, no problem, bro. Peace.
Hey, y'all be easy. All right.
You too.
Actually, what's today's date? Oh, that's 2 days. We're 2 days away from it. I think May 14th was De La Soul is Dead, KMD's Mr. Hood,
Yeah. Ice
um,
T,
Ice
OG,
T, something
Son of
else.
Berserk,
Son of Berserk, yeah, that was
and Chub Rock the One.
Chub Rock the One. Yes, that was one of those great days in hip hop that I always remember.
Yes. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for Dart Adams to,
Say that all the dates are wrong.
Yeah,
Listen,
they're all wrong. They all came out different days. But
De La and KMD, I remember I went downtown in Philly. I was living in Philly at the time, and I went and got those. So I know they came out that day.
yeah, okay.
I know that. Sure.
I didn't. I know that I got De La. I didn't get it right when it came out. I got it like shortly thereafter.
Oh.
So it was because I remember. I think it was like end of May, beginning of June, because I was out of school, and I had moved to Ohio and came back to visit my friends in Pittsburgh here. And they were like, "Oh, did you get the new De La?" I'm like, "Oh shit, is it out?" And they're like, psh, and so that's how I get to hear it.
It was a countdown, and I think the source came a little bit before the record drop. So I read the review, and I'm like, I need this record.
Yeah.
I need this record.
Well, once I heard Ring Ring Ring, I was like, "Oh, I'm sold." Let's go.
Dude, I remember my boy. He used to live in North Jersey, so he was getting stations we weren't getting. And he came down and played us Peas Porridge, and I was like, "What is this?" And I couldn't. I was like, "I need that new De La record. I need
it." Exactly.
It's crazy.
That's why you don't put. Yeah, nope, I don't do it because there's the maestro, Mr. Chuck. Yeah, that's why I don't do it because Dart Adams is gonna tell me how wrong I am. So.
KMD and De La, me and Dart Adams will fight. I know those dates.
He came out, and I know OG had to be right around there. I know I got it after I got De La, but it was like that summer. It was De La. It was De La all the time, and if I wasn't listening to De La, I was listening to Ice T. So. I played the shit out of those albums.
Can I plug something real quick?
Of course.
One of my friends, my boy THE out of Philadelphia. He runs something called the Hip Hop Foundation.
Okay.
And he's doing the Guinness Book World Records for the largest cipher.
Wow.
Like the largest hip hop cipher. So definitely go to Hip Hop Foundation or search for them, Hip Hop Foundation of Philadelphia. And I think it's coming up on the 27th of June. It's going to be actually like the largest cipher. And so he's trying to get that in the Guinness Book of World Records. So check out my man THE. He's at It's the Real THE on Instagram, but check out the Hip Hop Foundation out of Philly. They're doing some great things.
Dope. Are you getting down in that cipher? I'm just asking.
No. It's funny because we talked about. I might have some. I might have some little bars. I don't know. We gotta see.
You gotta be part of the. You gotta be part of the world record. Come on, Ultra. Represent.
I quit rapping until I started hanging with you, bro.
You can blame me all day. I'm fine with that.
Retired.
I'm fine with bringing you back.
I was retired.
Nope, not anymore, bro. You're too dope. Can't let that sleeping dog lie. Gotta wake up.
Chuck said he's wrapping up the magazine.
I know. He keeps texting me. Where's this shit? I got you, bro.
You got my stuff, right? As long as
Yeah.
got my stuff. As long as my stuff's in there.
I said it. They got your stuff. I had slipped up. I didn't put the. Yeah, that's right. It's the logo, bro. That was your idea. That was Chuck's idea. The whole C-Doc thing, that's his idea. This shit.
Ah. All right. See, Chuck, he got me. Chuck got my back.
So I sent you the podcast thing. I emailed it to you, Mr. Chuck, and then because I
Oh, Chuck,
mistakenly left it out of the folder.
we are ready.
Yep,
Ready.
exactly. Next are hard, but yes, they are. They are. But these are. But I tell you what, man. Talk about doing it right. You got the squad that does it right.
Listen, every time somebody gets their hands on that, like when I hear people, actually, when we did the prospective this weekend,
Yeah.
I took the magazine, so I
Oh,
was
good.
showing it to people. So I'm telling them like, yo, you need to go Barnes and Nobles, check this out. It's Chuck's new magazine. I was like, yo, we're in here, and
Yep.
people
There's
just
the
love the
charts.
layout. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, the layout is amazing.
Wow.
And we got charts.
Yes.
Bring back the charts. So.
Listen, you can tell. Like I love, because Chuck graphic design, and I went to school for graphic design, so
Oh.
I mean, you do graphic, Chuck knows
I
his.
went to school for graphic design.
There you go. We all know our Gestalt
We all
theories.
know
We
our
all-
graphic design. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yep.
good stuff.
Good stuff. Great stuff. Charts mean the core. Yes, sir. And yeah, and I mentioned when Jay was on that he's featured in the next issue.
Mhm. Love.
So that's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you for coming through. Check out the other great stuff we got here at Channel Zero. Dave and Mocha tomorrow night. Side B TV on Friday. And of course, Soulbuck. Soulbuck coming back. Oh, check out the mixtape. John Doe is the special guest this past week.
Big freaking shout out to John
Big
Doe for
freaking shout out to
stepping
John
in.
Doe for and boy, that was a dope mix. So he did the damn thing. And then Southern Vanguard Monday nights. Check them out
Yep.
too. All the replays are here. Yeah. So we got lots of great stuff. Please like and subscribe if you dig what we're doing. And yeah. Oh, Soulbuck. So I'm guessing Soulbuck will be back Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Mr.
Yep.
Buck. And he'll be playing the music of our next week's guest. And I forgot to check my calendar to see who we got next week.
It's
got
Mr. Philadelphia himself, Scheme Richards.
Ah, that's right.
And definitely tune in because Scheme Richards probably has every toy made from the beginning of time. And I was hitting him up the other day. He said he's going to pull out some gems for us. So it's going to be one of those episodes.
Excellent.
Destroyer might be jealous when he sees the gems that that Scheme Richards pulls out.
Antoine, you're going to listen to cassette tape of King Son XL after this. Word up. All right.
King Son.
That's what's up. You got to get King Son on the show.
That's the third King Son reference I've heard this week.
Wow.
Somebody was talking about XL this
Probably
weekend.
telling you something. It's trying to tell you something.
You need to get King Son on the show.
I don't know if you want King Son on the show.
It's some kind of a sign. God.
Have you ever seen King Son?
Just
He's like 7'19". Yo,
He
he's
is.
like, he's like
He is 7'19".
he's 7'19".
But all right, so we will see everybody next week for another episode of It's C-Doc again. Peace, y'all.